In any organization, top management must play an important role in defining goals and objectives.
It's fine, thanks to you, Ned. We read those quarterlies this morning. We're doing a bang-up job down in maintenance. Cut the generator downtime by 10%.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations.
No, you're the one who deserves the credit, Ned. You really helped the maintenance department with their goals and objectives. Made all the difference.
Well, thank you, but they did most of the work. As a matter of fact, I have my eye on 3 other managers now who have set some very tough objectives for themselves. I'm not sure they're going to make them.
Just keep up the good work, Ned. I'm sure they'll be fine with you to guide them.
Thank you, Charles.
Although the commitment of top management is imperative, effective goal setting also requires the involvement of managers and employees as well.
How are things going at the plant, Steve?
Fine. I'll be able to keep working on my objectives today.
Good. Come and see me if you run into problems.
Thanks, Ned, but I think I've got everything under control.
Good. How about you folks? Your objectives coming along?
Well, after 5 years on the dock, my objective is to get used to wearing this thing to work. But I think I have a handle on it.
I have a few ideas on customer satisfaction, Ned, but I'm not quite sure yet.
But effective goals and objectives don't just happen. Managers, especially new ones, may need coaching and training. But why are goals and objectives so important? Well, goals, clear statements of purpose, are important to the effective operation of the overall organization. But for the manager, learning how to define objectives to meet these goals, well, that's even more crucial for the most productive use of people and resources. You see, ever since the introduction of the concept of MBO, management by objectives, certain useful assumptions about setting objectives have become generally accepted by managers.
Yeah, the backlog problems are getting out of hand, boss.
Well, if everyone worked as hard as you, Hector, we wouldn't have any backlog problem. But I think I have the solution. Streamline the entire loading process. Cut it down to 1 hour per truck in the next month.
Assumption number 1. Objectives are a serious undertaking, and the manager should have a no-nonsense plan for implementation.
I want to do away with this bucket brigade system we've been using. Cut it down to 3-man crews, and let each crew handle individual orders from start to finish.
Sounds good to me, boss, but are you sure it's gonna work?
It better. Otherwise, what's the point of having an objective in the first place? Look, our turnaround time is hurting us. The stores don't get the merchandise, they can't sell the product. So I'm giving my word that we're going to cut loading time to 1 hour per truck, even if I have to load them myself.
That lot has stalls for 200 cars. I bet 30% of them are empty right now.
I'm afraid we have a real absentee problem.
Assumption number 2. Comparison of objectives with actual results provides crucial information for improving performance.
In fact, I've been working on my objectives, and this is my first priority. I'm going to cut the absentee rate by 30% by the end of the quarter.
That sounds great, but how?
Well, the way I'm going to work it is, each employee will fill out a report for each absence, and their supervisor's signature will be required on the form. Then the results will be published and sent to the main office.
You mean the employees and their supervisors will all be held accountable?
And ultimately me too.
It's going to be tough.
But if everyone feels responsible to each other above and below, it'll pump up the team spirit. Otherwise, my objective won't mean anything to anyone but me. I've outlined my objective. The memo can go out tomorrow.
And finally, assumption number 3. Objectives are among a manager's most important tools to help ensure organizational success.
I think I can take care of our complaint problem and my objective statement in one fell swoop. Now, the customer's number 1, right?
Right.
But we've had a problem with some customers who aren't completely satisfied.
Oh, you could say that.
But see, it's going to change, because that's my objective. Improve customer satisfaction. Perfect, don't you think?
But how can we achieve something so general?
Here's my idea. I'm going to have the art department draw banners and signs for all the walls, the end displays, everywhere, letting the customers know how we feel about them. The customer's number 1, we're working for you, customer service is king. What do you think?
I think that is a great idea. Then the customers will know that they are our first priority.
But for every correct assumption that managers make about setting objectives, there is a corresponding pitfall that can adversely affect the organization and its employees. But how do useful assumptions become problems? Well, when they are applied by managers in a way that is extreme or incomplete.
Okay, that's it for this one, Carlos. Set up the next one.
It's true that to be useful, objectives are to be taken seriously.
I mean, if I skip lunch again, my clothes ain't gonna fit.
Well, if Hector were here, he could spill you. But for now, you and
But if carried to its logical extreme, this assumption can become pitfall number one, namely, the view that objectives are rigid commitments that cannot be modified.
Hold on, please. Hector, where have you been? You're 15 minutes late.
I'm sorry, boss. I couldn't get near the parking lot. I had to park 3 blocks away.
Well, why is that?
Because that crazy schedule of yours has a line of our trucks back all the way down on Mission Street. And the front gate's jammed, and drivers are yelling at each other like crazy.
Great. We're already backed up 2 hours of truck. What a day to mess up a loading schedule.
An unrealistic objective can undercut a manager's effectiveness by causing bad feelings on the part of employees as well as superiors.
I know I said I had those offers to you this morning. I'll get them out this afternoon. You have my word. I know I gave you my word this morning, but...
Excuse me, Mr. Bloom? Here are those checkout slips you wanted from the front gate?
Again, comparison of objectives with actual results is a crucial part of the process.
I appreciate you bringing them up, Sam. It's an important part of meeting my lower absentee objective.
However, if carried too far, this may lead to pitfall number two, the belief that everyone must be held inflexibly accountable for achieving objectives.
Check them out in the log.
Thanks.
Well, I guess I better be getting back to my post. It's about time for the afternoon coffee rush.
Furthermore, by applying complex controls and reviews, the manager may generate resentment from co-workers due to needless red tape.
Got a minute, Steve?
Sure, Harry. Come on in. Sit down.
Hate barging in like this, Steve, but this paperwork is driving me nuts. This lower absentee objective you've given us has got me so busy signing absence slips, I can't get my other reports finished. There's a line of guys outside my office every morning. The lines are getting longer.
I don't understand it. I mean, I knew it was going to generate extra paperwork for everyone, but I felt certain that it was going to...
Worst of all, such a negative approach implies a threat to employees, resulting in a lack of trust and cooperation.
Where's Suzanne?
She's absent. She's out sick. Bonnie's a temp filling in for her.
And finally, though objectives can certainly help ensure organizational success, pitfall number 3 is to think that just having objectives will guarantee success.
Maybe I could show you another model or place the order again.
No, thanks. We're not wasting any more time here. We're going to a store where they have more washers than banners.
If your objective is out of touch with your specific problems, your employees and you will find it difficult to achieve results.
For starters, tell me why my microwave isn't repaired yet. I brought it in 3 weeks ago to have the seal replaced, and it still isn't ready.
Well, have you talked to the service department?
Oh, every day for the last week. And every day they say the same thing. We'll call you when it's ready. Now, you people talked me into paying extra for a service contract. And you said if I had any problems to come back to you.
You're right. If you'll give me your service receipt, I'll look into it for you. I'll talk to the service department today and have them call you with a date when your oven will be ready.
Wonderful. Another phone call to wait for.
Moreover, if your objectives are too general or long-term, day-to-day problems may very well get worse.
I'm Helen Cole from Appliances. I'd like to see Mr. Barnes, please.
Objective isn't easy. It's understandable that you feel frustrated. No one likes to make mistakes.
Mistakes is the word. My absentee objective hasn't worked out like I planned at all. The absentee rate is higher now than it was before.
You know why it's up instead of down?
I'm not sure. I wanted to ask you.
Have you noticed a change in the workers' attitudes?
Oh, I sure have. They're pretty disgruntled about the whole thing. My supervisors are complaining about the extra paperwork. And worst of all, my own secretary, who's a good worker, has become my latest casualty.
So the team spirit at the plant, has it improved?
No, it's gone downhill. The all for one and one for all approach sure hasn't worked.
I wonder if the workers felt an implied threat in your objective because it emphasized what they were to avoid, you know, something negative, rather than what you wanted them to achieve, which is something positive.
So that by holding everybody responsible for each other for when they were absent, I actually split the team apart and made things worse.
Well, could be. Instead of putting your team together, your approach may have been divisive.
Talk about divisive. I barely cut our loading time by 20 minutes, never mind an hour. And today we backed up more than 2 hours of truck with semi-trailers parked around the block. And that's with me out there sweating alongside the guys.
Do you think now that you could have ever met the objective you set?
No way. It's funny. I was just trying to do what was best for the company, and I made things worse.
I appreciate your thinking of the company. But any time an objective is inflexible, it can become a problem.
But I can't change my objective just because the going gets rough.
That's true. But you've got to consider all the elements involved to be sure that your objective is attainable, and then be willing to adjust your objective if the situation calls for flexibility.
Makes sense, Ned.
You know, my objective seems to have backfired too, Ned. Instead of increasing customer satisfaction, I seem to have just increased their complaints.
Let's take a closer look at your objective, Helen. Improve customer satisfaction. Well, that's fine. But it's a general statement and very long term. It really falls more into the category of a goal. But you can turn that goal around to write an objective that's specific, measurable, and more realistic.
So my statement was unrealistic?
Yes, because it was too general and almost impossible to measure. Maybe you should shift your focus away from your customers to find that objective.
What I was really trying to do was to find a way to stop these complaints.
Well, you're on the right track.
Well, maybe my objective should be reduce customer complaints.
Take a closer look at your customer reply cards.
Service contract support, shorter register lines, larger selection.
Right.
Looks like I should have been focusing on ways to address specific customer complaints instead of trying to satisfy the customers with flashy banners and slogans.
See, you can't always control customer satisfaction, Helen, but you can work with your staff to improve service. And if you achieve that goal, then eventually you'll increase the level of customer satisfaction, which is what you wanted all along, right? But you're not done yet. In order for your objective to be effective, you need a time limit and a way to measure it.
How about a 10% decrease in complaints by the end of the quarter?
Sounds fine. But remember, you're the only one who can decide if it's feasible.
Well, I'll sure know if it's working.
What I don't understand, Ned, is why do we need to write these objectives anyway? I mean, isn't that the job of our CEO?
Well, that's a good point, Chuck. First of all, goals don't come from just out of nowhere. Here, and in most companies, goals come from the top. As CEO, Charles Avery is responsible for setting the goals for the entire company, very general and long-term. For instance, I'm sure that increasing customer satisfaction is one of his goals, but they don't stop there. His goals must be interpreted by middle-level executives like me into objectives that are meaningful and realistic for each manager's area of responsibility. Then I pass my goals on to each of you. Helen uses these goals to create objectives for the appliance department. In turn, Steve determines how his department can contribute to achieving the goals. Then he develops appropriate objectives. And finally, Chuck translates the goals into workable objectives for the shipping department. So you see, your goals and objectives still remain in line with the CEO's original goals. Call it the trickle-down theory of management.
Then the goals we achieve help you achieve your own goals.
Right.
And by setting and meeting my specific objectives on the dock, I help the CEO reach his goals.
Which will eventually benefit the entire company. Oh, thanks for the explanation, Ned. It's made a big difference.
And thanks for your patience. That's meant a lot.
Oh, not at all. A lot goes into setting effective goals and objectives and then meeting them. Well, good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Well, I'm ready.
I have some work to do.
Let's go.
Now that we understand the importance of setting objectives, we need to know how to make them effective. Otherwise, it may be difficult or impossible to determine if and when an objective has been accomplished. Now, there are 5 characteristics associated with effective objectives. They are specific, attainable, measurable, result-oriented, and time-limited.
I can't get over what a difference it's made modifying my objective. I talked to everyone, and this time I stressed the positive, what we're all trying to accomplish here. And, you know, it took some time, but the staff really responded. In fact, there's a new...
Number one, make your objectives specific. By fixing clear, positive objectives, your evaluation of results will be both fair and accurate.
Ned, thank you for all your help.
Oh, you're welcome. I've got a meeting with Charles this afternoon. I think he's going to be very pleased at what you've done.
You can tell him that Suzanne and I are working on our new objectives, and they'll be ready when?
Next week.
Great work, both of you.
Thanks.
Number two, make sure they are attainable, feasible not only in terms of your employees, but other resources as well.
Since the guys and I have put our heads together and come up with a more realistic time frame, we're back in the game.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Well, everyone's attitude is a lot better.
Number three, make objectives measurable, expressed, when possible, in a quantity. That way, you will be better able to set future objectives.
Good luck with your new objective, and keep up the good work, Chuck.
Thanks, Ned.
Just having objectives is not enough. So rather than focusing on vague activities, number four, make objectives result-oriented.
Sarah and I are studying those customer reply cards and focusing the staff on the most common complaints.
Sounds great.
And last, number five, objectives should be time-limited, short-term rather than long, so that you can effectively monitor your progress.
And don't be afraid to surpass your objective. Next time, set an even higher one.
But it has to be...
You know, ultimately the process of defining goals and objectives depends on you, upon each individual's realistic statement of what can be accomplished. The process is not magic, and it's definitely not foolproof, but it is a very effective way for managers and employees to focus on what can be done and how they will know when it has.